Well, shalom, shalom. This is Dave from Universal Truth of Mankind. If you visit our website at www.utom.org, you can find out what our latest video is. Now, this is the first of the Zohar A to B. If you haven't watched the preface, the previous video, please do. It just gives you a little bit of a background and understanding of what's going on. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to create an intent, to create a desire, or to declare a desire. And I put a very simple prayer forth, and that is, may we learn to bestow. Because really, this is not just an individual effort, it's a group effort. And it's not just a group effort, it's also an individual effort. This is something that we all have to practice. So let's move on. We'll be scanning the Hebrew characters. We'll see that very shortly. You'll notice that in English, there are all caps inserted, and those are the commentary. And we have to ask ourselves some basic questions here. Who is Israel? Why a rose? Concepts of contrast and balance. Upper and lower Israel. And these are keys to understanding what this particular verse is speaking to. All right, so here we have the Hebrew. Now you will note that it is right justified, because Hebrew is read from right to left, where English is left to right. Now you don't have to understand what you're reading, just scan it. So we will be starting with line 1, and you just scan over slowly. Then you go to line 2, scan from right to left. Line 3, do the same. Line 4. Line 5. Line 6. And then the final line. Your subconscious will automatically pick up what was read. And we'll talk about this more another time. All right, here we have the English translation of the Hebrew we just read. Please note that there are upper and lower cases for pretty much throughout this verse, but there are exceptions where you will see all uppercase. The uppercase, the entire uppercase words is the commentary. It helps to flow the text. It also helps to keep it in context, and also gives clues clues, pointers, to help a more seasoned, experienced reader and Kabbalist to see that there's more, that there are spiritual things going on, and those are clues to that. All right, we're not going to worry about those, but we will worry about the parts that help the flow of the text. Now, in the previous slide, I gave a few pointers of what we'll be looking for. So keep that in mind as we go along, the contrast, the balance, and the upper and the lower. Okay, so let's read this through and we will see. Okay, Rabbi Hezekiah opened a discussion with the verse, as the rose among the thorns. And that's in Song of Songs, Song of Solomon, Shir HaShirim, which is chapter 2, verse 2. He asked, what is the rose? Because we only talk about the rose right now, not the thorns. We'll get to the thorns later on. So what's the rose? And he replies, it is the congregation of Yisrael, which is Malchut. Now that's important, Malchut. That's the level right above where we currently are, more or less. Now this is not congregation Yisrael in the sense of people. This is a soul thing. This is something that was created at the very beginning of creation. We'll see that very shortly in a moment. Because there is a rose, and there is a rose, now we're saying that there's 2 roses at least. Now, I've never heard anyone talk about this, but very recently found in the Zohar, there is a discussion about 2 different roses, and we will touch on that as well. And a rose among the thorns. We're talking about the thorns now. So what do the thorns do? okay, is tinged. So the rose is tinged from the thorns with the red and the white. Now, red are two colors that represent judgment, obviously would be red. And then the white represents the leniency, or some would say mercy. I prefer the word leniency, and you'll see why in a moment. So is the congregation of Israel affected by the qualities of judgment and mercy? That's why you have red and white on the rose. That's why you have thorns around the rose. You make a mistake, you're going to get tinged. If you feel the pain, well, you may want to move away from the thorn. Okay, so just as the rose has 13 petals, so the congregation of Israel is surrounded by 13 attributes of mercy. Okay, and in this case, I do prefer the word mercy. Okay, so let's move on. Thus, between the first mention of the name Elohim, which is translated as God, which appears in the passage, which is Genesis 1:1, in the beginning Elohim created. Then we go on. The second mention of Elohim, there are 13 words. So there's 13 words between the two mentions of Elohim that are in verses 1 and 2 of the first chapter of Genesis, which translates as the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form, and void and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and a wind. Okay, so these words surround and guard the congregation of Israel. Okay, so we're talking about a spiritual realm here. We're talking about an Israel that is lower than we currently are, and an Israel that's above. So why is that important? Well, because it's showing that between these 13 words is an upper and a lower Israel. The upper Israel is what Israel is supposed to be. It's the perfected Israel. And it will be accumulated with those who have, remember, this is a soul level. It's perfected. It's an image of what we are eventually to become. Not we will try to become, we will become. Now, is this limited to any specific people group? Well, reality, no. But Israel is an upper and a lower, and like I said, I have found in the other readings within the Zohar that there is a discussion of two roses. So compare, if you have a comparison between roses, there has to be at least two. And there are two roses. Again, what are they? There's the upper and the lower. There's upper Israel, the lower Israel. The lower Israel is here on earth, and the upper Israel is above. And it's an example, a pattern in which we are to eventually secure with ourselves. Now, we also have the attributes of what? Leniency and judgment. So leniency and judgment is the left and the right. It's where you got a horizontal relationship. It's like hot and cold water. You don't know what hot water is unless you experience cold. You don't know what right temperature water should be until you experience both hot and cold. And then you can decide somewhere in the middle of what they will be or where you should be. So you got a left and right relationship going on, and then there's a merciful between them, and that mercy now extends from the upper Israel down to the lower Israel, which is characterized by a bunch of thorns, in which we have to learn to correct ourselves. And until we do that, Israel will be dispersed. And again, Israel is basically for anyone who holds on to the tree of life. If you're one of those people, you're in. Well, shalom, everybody. Take care.